Welcome back to another video in this series to searing the perfect steak in cast iron. What we're going to do today is test out whether utilizing one of these steak irons to put it on top of the steak while it's searing in the cast iron is going to help with the crust at all. You know, we're really interested in seeing if this helps ensure that the bottom of the steak is just sticking to the cast iron pan and making sure we've got full contact. But at the same time, I'm not sure what's going to happen. If, you know, is this going to push some juice out of the steak? Is it going to be less tender? I just want to see the difference between utilizing one of these guys versus just the straight up steak cast iron. That's all you've got. So to start with, what we're going to do is just our regular dry brine. Not going to go through all the steps. There's a link down below if you want to see the dry brine process, but it's essentially just drying down the steaks with some paper towel, putting on salt, putting it on a cooling rack, and then sitting it in your fridge for 48 hours. It's a great way to ensure you get all the moisture off of the steak and ensure that when you drop it into the pan and getting all of that energy from the cast iron pan transitioning into cooking your steak and through the Maillard reaction just caramelizing that crust. So we've had these steaks in the fridge dry brining for 48 hours. And we've had them on this setup with the cooling rack sitting over top of a cookie tray. And you always want to make sure you're doing that because you will get some moisture that drips down out of the steaks and you don't want your fridge to be a mess. So what we're going to be doing here in this test, we're going to be using that cast iron hammer just to act as a weight and keep that over top of our steak when we're searing it in cast iron. As you can see from the top of this steak, it's not perfectly flat, right? And what we're looking for is we want perfect connection between the full surface of the steak and the cast iron. So little indents like this or pockets like this, that's where we're thinking, you know, maybe this cast iron weight is actually going to help and make sure we get perfect flat connection between the steak and cast iron. So, you know what? We're going to fire this bad boy up, get it screaming hot up to about 450 degrees, and then throw the steaks on. Now, because we put such a generous portion of salt on here for the dry brine, we don't need to season these any further with salt, but of course we need our fresh cracked black pepper. All right, now let's fire up that cast iron pan. So for the steak iron, we're just using one of these guys. It's the same thing that we used for the smash burgers recipe. It's made out of cast iron, just like the pan. So you want to be cleaning it and treating it with oil just like you would a regular cast iron pan. So now we're going to get our infrared thermometer out and just check the temperature of the pan. We're looking for at least 450, 400 to 450. So we've got that here. And we're going to go in with our usual avocado oil. Best thing about this oil is A, it's inexpensive, B, it's got an ultra high smoke point, and C, it's a neutral oil, so it doesn't impart any flavor. So that's what we're going to do there, put a generous amount in. Now we're going to grab a glove, just move that oil around the pan, make sure you get a nice thick coating all around. Now we're going to go in with our steaks. Right, so we're going to put the iron down on this one. And we'll see if that extra weight makes any difference. So you're going to want to leave these here for 4 minutes. Don't touch them. We'll flip them after 4 minutes. We want as much energy from that hot pan to transfer into the steaks through the Maillard reaction and start to make that really nice brown, crispy steakhouse crust. Enough contact there with the cast iron weight. So now let's just do a little bit of spacing with the butter here. Now while these are resting, we're just gonna put a little bit of compound butter on the top of them, just like that. No tenting, we're just gonna let these sit for 10 minutes and we'll be right back. So we've had these steaks resting for about 10 minutes. This is the one where we had the cast iron press on it, and as we run the knife over here, you can't really tell a difference between the crust that formed on the outside. We got a beautiful sear along the fat caps as normal. And now let's slice in. All right, so let's dig into this here. We're gonna see this guy. This is the one that we didn't have a cast iron pressed down on. You can see it's a nice medium rare here, right in the middle. That's perfect. And then this one here, also really nice medium rare, right in the middle. So we're now on to the taste test. I think at this point, you know, the only real difference might be juiciness. So we'll see when we bite in here. And you taste the salt brine, beautiful all the way through the steak. Great crust, really nice crunch. Really tender, but you know, I'm not really sensing anything different by using the cast iron weight there. So now let's try on this one. That is definitely the juicier steak. Same flavors, you get the garlic, the rosemary, the butter, so I think there's something about that steak iron here where it's just the weight's pressing down on the steak, maybe squeezing some of the juices out. I'm gonna declare the winner, just a regular cast iron seared steak here. So if you're ever wondering, folks, there's the outcome. My vote, don't use a cast iron weight on your steaks. You get a perfect sear, great outcome otherwise, and a juicier steak. So thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, give us a like below, share this on Facebook or Twitter or other social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in.